In today's video, we're going to be talking about supports, specifically Marvel Rivals supports, and how everybody has been slowly realizing they kinda suck. And not that they're bad, because a lot of them are kinda good, a little too good. And others are just kinda mid, or have been seen as weak because they don't do a shit ton of healing. Now, let's get into this, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to go through, give you a pros and cons list of every single Marvel Rivals support, in my opinion. But overall, this is still the general sentiment of what I've seen for some of them. So I applied that to the rest of them, and kind of use that as a guideline to see generally what is probably the outlook on these characters. So yeah, let's get into it. I'll be having chapters in every single bit for who is going where, the pros and cons. So it'd be like pros and cons Adam Warlock, pros and cons Ultron, probably P&C is probably what we'll do, pro and con, Adam Warlock, Rocket, Ultron, all done. Alright, now let's actually get into it now. Okay, so let's talk about Adam Warlock and his pros. So the first little bit I want to talk about, Adam Warlock does not have a primary spam to heal. His primary is only used to get his healing back faster, which is on a cooldown, by doing critical hits or hitting with his secondary fire, which is really good, because Adam Warlock needs to be good mechanically in the micro, not just the macro. But he also doesn't have any movement, so he needs to be good in the macro, which is game sense and positioning. As is also the micro, which is your aiming and cooldown stuff, which actually cooldown might be macro, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say there. Then Adam Warlock has multiple utility abilities, one in his ultimate, which sure is a circle ultimate, but it's to revive allies, and then he has to heal them, which I did not realize this, but apparently they come with bonus health, which I'm a little mad about, because before they were invincible, and they didn't get bonus health, which I thought was fine, because it's like, okay, cool, I don't need to damage them, because the bonus health's purpose is to not be able to kill them right after they're res. That was the whole point, but whatever. So that was a little bit of a con, but like, overall, the sentiment is a pro. Then, his other utility is his, what is it called, Soul Bond, where he'll just AoE spread out healing between him and his allies within a few meters of himself. I like that. That's a good amount of utility. That's 2 utility abilities, and for some pretty decent bouncing heals, which isn't bad at all. And then, since he doesn't have any mobility or any self-utility aside from that damage reduction ability, he then has a self-revival tool that also can be used to reposition. And these are all pros for Adam Warlock, in my opinion. And you want to know how many cons I think Adam Warlock has, at least compared to the rest of the cast? None. I don't think Adam Warlock has a single bad thing about him, other than maybe the fact that they changed the ultimate to give bonus health instead of just invincibility, which I think is weird, but whatever. So if you want to count that as a con, he has 1 con and like 7 pros. Adam Warlock is the perfect support in Marvel Rivals. For what they have made, he is the perfect support. Now, what I neglected to mention to you, but if you read the title, you should know, we are going to be reworking almost every single support, but since I have no cons for Adam Warlock, why would I change him? Therefore, Adam Warlock will be unchanged, as I think he's basically perfect. If I did have to change anything, it wouldn't really be a rework, it would just be a reversion of the thing that they did to give his old bonus health rather than the invincibility. So yeah, that's the end of our Adam Warlock segment. Alright, now time to go over the pros and cons of Rocket Racoon. Now, the pros of Rocket. He has movement in both ability form and passive form with his little jetpack dash and then his wall crawl. Now, he also has utility in BRB, Battle Rebirth Station, God, I can't talk, and his ultimate does damage boost. However, his cons are pretty bad. So 1, his damage, garbage, trash. His primary fire damage is very bad. Like, even in this gameplay, you'll probably see me get kills, but I'm doing AI bots because I'm not fighting real people with these characters I don't enjoy playing, let alone I'm not good with, because I haven't played Rivals consistently in a little bit. So, I'm a little washed. But anyway, not important. Next, he has a primary spam heal. I'm actually talking secondary, same shit. Listen, if Baptiste in Overwatch, the only way you could heal was by shooting his secondary, you would literally be sitting there shooting your secondary the entire fucking game, and you would not be able to weave in any damage. If Overwatch and Paladin supports were made like Rivals supports, oh my god, it would suck. Anyway, then his ultimate was very unique. It did not do any healing, did not give you bonus health, nothing. It was purely a damage boost thing, and that fit Rocket perfectly. And then you know what they did? They fucked it up. They made his ultimate another defensive ult by giving you rapid over health, like rapid bonus health, and then the damage boost, which just made it another defensive ultimate, because people were complaining, oh, Rocket doesn't have a defensive ultimate. The point is, You use somebody with a defensive ultimate, and use somebody with an offensive ultimate, or you just get good. Because also, I think when I'm reworking all these characters, which we're going to get into in a second with Rocket, when I'm reworking all the characters' kits, you need to keep in mind with these like this would also come in with overall healing reduction, overall damage reductions to everybody, and overall ult cost increasing just a little bit, except for people with like ults that take a minute. Like, what was the character that took me the longest to build ult? It was probably Loki, but also fucking that match, my team just, I was doing bad, but I was a solo support and they were doing trash, and that was bad. So either way, whoever takes like the longer 5 ults, maybe keep them at a lesser increase or no increase, but overall increase the ult durations. Nope, decrease the ult durations, increase the ult cost for everybody, and also, I don't know. I don't like how Luna Snow is a 12-second ultimate. And then like Loki's like a 15 when everybody knows he just immediately pops Luna ult and then calls it a day. Like Iron Fist like 8 seconds. 8 seconds is fine, but I think every like support ultimates need to be tuned down a little bit in duration, increasing cost, all damage, all healing, all this needs to just kind of be decreased and increased a little bit. But now we're going to get into reworking Rocket, and I'm going to stop rambling about everything that needs to be changed. Before I get into all the things that are changed, I'm going to tell you what would be unchanged about Rocket. So his wall climb passive, his hover ability passive, and his BRB can stay the exact same on the exact same buttons. I don't care. I think they're fine. Now first, let's get on to his primary fire, Bombard mode. So what I want for Bombard mode is to increase the like damage a little bit, and then increase the time it takes for his spread to spread out, because I think his spread's fine. It just gets to like the max spread way too quickly for so little damage, to the point where I feel like we can afford upping his damage and increasing the time before his spread flourishes out so much. Alright, so now we are going to switch around Rocket's repair mode and his jetpack dash. We are going to rename jetpack dash to just jetpack, and we are going to make Rocket a pseudo flyer. Now, I don't want Rocket to be a fully flying character. I don't think that is needed. It just feels weird for having Rocket to dash around, and plus, even if that didn't feel weird, you'd never get to use Flying Ace, which is his passive, to hover, because most of the time you're not going to want to be in the air because of the fucking DPS. So, why would you, when you're perfectly fine as Rocket sitting in the back on the floor? So we are going to use Jetpack to where he can do that, drop, or hover, and it'll be a lot smoother, I think, for Rocket as a character. And for how his jetpack would work, it would be in the similar vein to Pharah from Overwatch, or Dragos, I think is his name from Paladins, but make it on like the Star-Lord type resource meter, where it goes down really fast, but it comes back pretty fast too. Now that repair mode is no longer on his secondary fire and is now an ability, I want to rename it to Heal. Heal stands for High Efficiency Adaptive Lifeline, and it'll be another way for Rocket to heal that wasn't just spamming his secondary fire, and this will let Rocket be more active, which is what Rocket would do. He helps his team a little bit, but he would be a more damaging support. How the heal would work, it'd be like a little extension off of his backpack, like his little jetpack you see on the screen, and it would basically send out tethers to allies within a certain range of him, and then unclip and reclip to them as they enter and exit the range. It would passively heal them over time, and allies under 50% HP would not only get healed faster, but get a little bit of a heal over time, sort of like how Mercy did it, x how like Moira kind of does it, where Moira, if you heal, it'll do a little over time as well after you're done healing them. And then Mercy had, or still has, I don't know, a passive where if you're under 50%, she heals you for more. So combine those on a lesser scale, and boom, now you have something where Rocket can sustain his team, but still play with a Brawl team and not be completely separated from them. Now, if we want the Sia, or the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier, to actually give you bonus health instead of just giving it to you, I want it to be to where when everybody is connected to it, whoever's connected to it would receive bonus health by doing damage. Now, it doesn't matter if Rocket's doing damage, Thor's doing damage, Loki's doing damage. If somebody does damage, it will then go into the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier and then spread out throughout everybody to give some bonus health, so that way you are incentivized to actually shoot things instead of just sitting there and surviving. You can actually shoot things, and that's how you live. So if you have a Punisher, he will capitalize the hell out of that amplifier. He already did, but now he definitely will. And it'll be actually skill dependent on whether he will survive as easy or not. And I think this is a way to make Rocket not only more interesting, more fun, more with his character, but also just be a more interesting support and more diverse from the rest of the cast. Now on to Ultron. Oh boy, what can I say? We were all disappointed. I think overall we were disappointed. He does play better than I initially thought, but he still just doesn't feel like Ultron. Now, I need to make this very clear if you didn't notice with Rocket, I'm going to be keeping it as true to how they designed the character as possible, while also improving the way they play, just because when I'm reworking Ultron, he stays this kind of way. I just make him better at it without only buffing him. So yeah, it's going to do his pros and his cons, which, just so you know, most cons lists are longer than the pros. So, the pros of Ultron. He does not have a primary spam heal. Rocket, Luna, them. They do. He doesn't. And he has a movement ability. Is it kind of a little dookie? A little bit, but hey, he has a movement ability. Better than some, Adam. The cons of Ultron, however, are a set and forget AoE heal. Firewall is negligible at best because it barely applies any overhealth. His ultimate is boring. It's just healing and damaging at the same time. That's boring. There's no nuance to it. It's literally just he shoots, he heal, he damage in radius of the shots. That's it. It's boring as it's boring. And then on top of that, his only utility is Firewall, which I just said is very negligible, and it does not feel impactful at all. The only good thing about him is the AoE heal, because it just AoE heals. That's literally the only good thing about him being a support. So yeah, let's get into our rework for Ultron. Okay, so first, what can stay from Ultron? Well, his Encephalo Ray, his primary, it can stay, I'm fine with it. And then his Dynamic Flight can also stay. Again, I'm fine with it. I have no big qualms. It's a little dookie, but hey, it works, so whatever. So, firstly, we are going to be talking about Imperative Firewall. So, Firewall's increased range. He has an increased range now for who it can apply bonus health to. Because it feels weird how you can set your drone to somebody 30 meters away, or whatever it is, but then it's all under half of that, it feels like, when you're using Firewall. So I say we increase the Firewall to 20, 25, 30 almost, just a little bit bigger, not insane. So whatever it's at, increase it by half of what it is, and that'll be probably good. But anyway, and then we will add a cap to the bonus health you can receive to up to 175. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, you can stack it? Not necessarily by itself. We're going to combo stuff. So, with Imperative Firewall, it will have a cap of 175, but you cannot just spam Firewall because the bonus health will decay before your cooldown comes back. That includes for yourself. This is where Imperative Patch comes in. So, let's talk about it. Here's what we do with Imperative Patch. We make it so it can regenerate the Imperative Firewall's bonus health while allies who got it are inside the healing radius. Now, as soon as you leave the healing radius, then it'll start the timer to decay as normal, which I think is 2.5, 3 seconds. So, let's say you Firewall a Iron Fist while he's in the healing radius. He stays in there long enough to get the 175 overhealth. He does his own overhealth, and then he goes in. Well, before his own overhealth probably runs out from the damage or anything, he will probably lose your overhealth at the decaying rate. But I think this is a way to where it kind of encourages Ultron to kind of play with his team more and make sure to pay attention to them. Because if he can stack this on his team, then that can set him up for a big play. And then finally, for Rage of Ultron, get rid of the healing. I don't care. They want Ultron to be a DPS. They should treat him like a DPS. I'm sorry. If you want him to be a DPS support, you treat him like a DPS support. You don't make his ult heal for no reason. That doesn't make any sense, because his blast, because it says Encephalo Ray Blast. That implies it's the exact same Encephalo Ray as his primary, which means it shouldn't heal unless his primary can heal. And last I checked, his primary cannot heal except with the Iron Man team up. Therefore, it doesn't heal, but we've made him better by increasing his utility uptime in his bonus health and compounding it with Imperative Patch, thus making his heal and his overhealth more usable. So yeah, sorry for that breathy rambling. I'm quite passionate about improving characters and making them unique, and this makes Ultron semi-unique. So we will be moving on from Ultron now. Alright, so following Ultron, we do have Loki, and we'll start with his pros. So we've got the unique duplication ultimate ability, we have the making clones and then swapping with said clones ability, and we have the unique melee so that way you know do more damage from behind. Oh, and an invisibility ability. Now for his cons. Obviously he has a primary heal ability, like on his primary fire, which basically means you just spam primary fire the whole game. His only utility is his little circle of invincibility, basically. Like, sure, you can break them, but he can have up to 3 of them, and they stack. So it's basically an invincibility ability if he uses clones, and even if he doesn't, if you don't shoot it, you literally can't die in it without insane burst damage. And then his melee, his like unique melee, feels basically useless because you're always in the back of your team spamming primary, and then you feel slow while in invisibility, even though I'm pretty sure you move at the same speed in or out of invisibility. It just feels a lot slower. So we will get into how to fix Loki at least somewhat. So yeah, let's get into that. So firstly, we are going to keep basically all of his abilities, and we are only going to get rid of the healing on his Mystical Missile primary fire. Next up, we are going to be talking about Regeneration Domain and how we're going to change it. So, Regeneration Domain will keep its healing over time. Maybe we'll like not shorten it, but like decrease the healing on it a little bit, but otherwise it'll stay like that. Now, the way that we're converting damage to healing with it is it's not going to be a 1-to-1 anymore. I'm pretty sure it's a 1-to-1 because I didn't see anybody lose health when I use it, so I'm assuming it's a 1-to-1. Now, we are going to change it from a 1-to-1 damage to healing to a 1 to 0.8. And then we're going to get into some other stuff when we talk about double gangers. We're going to keep Loki at his 2 double gangers, but there'll be 2 changes to them, one of which I've made a little bit last minute. So the last minute change is going to be that his double gangers have a small aura around them to heal allies, so you have to strategically place them for yourself and your allies. Now, the other change has to do with his regeneration domain, which will be that they will be half as effective when used by a clone, because otherwise it would basically be an immortality circle on the clones as well, like it currently is. So instead of a 1 to 0.8 like we just did, it's going to be a 1 to 0.4 with half as much healing, but they can still stack. So that way you can still keep the burstiness of stacking up your regen domains, but it's a little easier to do to kill through, and the regeneration domain made by the clones are also at 50% health, because I think it's just weird to have the illusionary Lokis make things just as powerful as the normal Loki. I just think it'd make more sense for them to work like this and be more healthy for the game, because some people don't shoot regen domain, so we need to kind of do something about that. For Loki's Devious Exchange or Clone Swap, I'm thinking about either making the cast time for it faster or giving it a second charge with the same cooldown, just to make Loki a little bit more mobile, a little bit more strategically placing himself, rather than really just sitting in the back and shooting his allies. And he can't heal like that anymore, so he needs to go in and do something. Loki is the type of character that would go into the fight even when he's playing a supportive role. So, the next 2 ability alterations will be doing so, starting with his backstab. So, if you don't know, Loki has a unique unique melee called backstab. And basically, when he hits enemies from behind, he does more damage. Now, here's what I want to do. Very simply, increase the damage on the melee from behind than what it is current, but decrease it than it is current if they are looking at him. So let's say right now it does 20 damage, lower it to 10, but let the from behind do like 40 or something, or like 35, like quite a bit more. And then for Loki's deception ability or his invisibility ability, we'll be changing something to that to make it more proactive, because I feel too slow and clunky and useless in it. So we're going to do something with it. We're going to give it a decaying speed boost. Now what happens is basically you'll start at 180% speed or 80% boosted movement speed. Then you will lower in speed to 80% speed, and it is a 10-second cooldown ability now. However, if you stay invisible for longer than 100, so basically once you go to 100 move speed, if you go any below that, that's when it becomes a 15-second cooldown, like it currently is. So you can quickly reposition and kind of use that as a flow, but if you really drag out the way you're, like how long you're invisible, then you will get the longer cooldown and move slower as a result. And this is kind of a way to make his backstab more useful, because currently, with current Loki, you do not use backstab. That is something you never use. You probably never even press your freaking melee button in most matches. So I think it'd be good if we lower his healing, let his clones do some stuff, then he goes in and starts to try to like get some more damage because he could at least maybe get El Squishy down or finish him off. Because currently, he can't really do that effectively, because only his clone swap gives him that ability, because otherwise you have to slowly go in invisible. It just takes too long, in my opinion. Finally, for Loki's ultimate, God of Mischief. Now, I think that all ult durations shouldn't exceed 8, maybe 10 seconds, but if they're going to insist on ults like Luna Snow being 12 seconds, then we are going to do something about it with Loki. So, when Loki copies a character and then uses their ultimate, and the ultimate exceeds 8 seconds, it will not go above 8 seconds for Loki. So if Loki copies a Luna Snow, then uses the ultimate, it will not be a 12-second ultimate, it will be an 8-second ultimate. Because that way you can't just stack Luna ult. Because if you have a Luna and a Loki and an Invisible Woman, you can just Invisible Woman ult, and then Luna ult, and then Loki ult into Luna ult or Invisible Woman ult. And that's like, what, 40-something seconds of invincibility with both the support, with 2 other supports other than Loki? That's a lot of invincibility. Then if you add somebody else like Mantis or even Jeff now, because I didn't realize, but hey, they gave Jeff a healing thing on his ult now. They ununique my boy, but we're going to talk about that later. So yeah, this is my general attempt at trying to make Loki more team play, more interesting, and feel more like Loki if he was forced into a supporting role. So yeah, that's the end of my Loki section. Alright, it is time for Mantis's pros and cons. She has mostly pros and only one con. She's damn near perfect in my opinion. So, first we have a non-primary way of healing. We have damage boost for her and her allies, a sleep ability, and she is able to basically have a unique cooldown system where as long as she hits headshots, similar to how Adam, if he hits headshots, his healing comes out faster, but now hers also works for her sleep and for her, no, it doesn't work for sleep, it works for her damage boosts and her healing. And then on top of that, she has a source of passive movement and self-sustain. When she's full HP, she will be able to move faster, and when she uses her abilities, she will gain some life back in like sort of a heal over time. If it is more restricted than just when she uses abilities, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's when she just uses abilities. The only con for Mantis that I have is the fact that her circle ultimate, well, not only is it a defensive circle ultimate, while sure it does provide some damage boost, nope, movement boost. I don't know, it's just not different enough from others because it's just a circle around her that follows her perfectly. Doesn't matter where you are in it, if you're in it, you're basically a lot safer than you were before because there's a heal over time, a move boost, and any excess healing will be turned into bonus health, which, I don't know, that just seems like a lot to me. So since I only have an issue with Mantis's ultimate soul resonance, I am going to only be reworking that specific. Alright, so I just checked and it's called Soul Resurgence, so my bad. But anyway, here's how we're reworking it. So we're going to remove the healing on Soul Resurgence, and we're going to instead make it to where her range is slightly increased, and then you still get the bonus movement speed and you get bonus health. However, at the rate at which you get bonus health is determined by how close you are to Mantis within her radius. So if you're on the very outskirts of her radius, let's say you get it at 25 bonus health per second, but then if you're right up against her, it'll be like 100 per second or 125 per second. So the distance from her does matter. So it encourages Mantis to kind of use that added movement speed she gets, especially when she procs it, to go next to her allies real quick, get everybody some bonus health, and then everybody just kind of goes in and out from Mantis to get bonus health. They lose it, they come back, go, come out, go. It'll be more of a tempo shift ultimate, maybe even increase the ally movement speed boost, because, I don't know, I didn't even realize that it really affected my allies, because it didn't feel like it did unless they were already fast, so maybe also increase the movement speed to allies. This way, it's still a defensive ultimate like Rocket's, but it's a unique defensive ultimate, to where it's not just a circle of infinite health. It's a circle of like tempo shift and bonus health, because Mantis is here to like kind of just ease your mind and get you going into the fight rather than just straight healing you. So yeah, that is my idea for reworking Mantis. Cloak&Dagger, the support that I have praised the most for having a unique concept, at least, the duo concept. But oh my god, Cloak&Dagger, you have so much potential to have so much utility, and yet you just blah. So let's talk about the pros of Cloak and Dagger. Firstly, obviously, the duo mechanic, basically having two characters in one, is pretty good. You have Cloak's ability to basically phase out all of his allies and give himself sort of a movement ability. You have the way of boosting healing with Dagger's. I'm just gonna call it Light Cape because that's what it is. It's just Terra Cape but light. Then Terra Cape has the addition of blinding and then basically discording from Overwatch, making them take more damage. Now, if you notice, most of the pros are from Cloak. Now, let's get to the cons, which, if you couldn't guess, most are from Dagger. So firstly, Dagger not only has an auto-targeting main healing, it's also a primary spam heal. Okay, and then guess what? It also has a small AoE healing. And then guess what? One of her other abilities, another AoE heal. And guess what? Her Light Cape also does heal. And guess what their ult does? Heals and damages. Defensive ult. AoE can stack, so it's a shit ton of healing. Almost unable to kill through, except, they've buffed certain things and nerfed certain things to make it to where it is killable through sometimes. But if you still got it full stacked, you can't kill through it. Basically, Cloak is a better support than Dagger, and Dagger is a better healer than Cloak. So, anyway, now let's get into the rework for Cloak and Dagger. So for this rework, we're going to quickly go over the Dagger changes, then the Cloak changes, and then the changes for both of them, aka their ultimate. So Dagger's Dagger Storm ability, which is where she throws out multiple light daggers, and then they explode into this AoE heal bubble, that can stay. Now, her primary fire light daggers, when she shoots them, they still auto-aim, they still directly heal with that. However, they no longer do the small AoE of healing, because I think Dagger Storm does that plenty. And then on top of that, we are going to remove the heal from her Light Cape, which is what let's just say we rename it to Light Cape, because why not? Her Light Cape only does the boosted healing effect now, and no longer does the healing on top of that. However, to compensate for the loss of the healing, we are going to make it to where every ally hit with this Light Cape will then gain damage reduction, as opposed to how Cloaks works, where it gives damage, you take increased damage as an enemy. So it's kind of like the opposites thing I'm trying to go for here. Then we're going to change literally nothing about Cloak, because I think he does a fantastic job as being a support, and we're really just making Dagger a little bit better at utility. Now we are going to reduce the ultimate duration, whether that be by increasing the speed at which they move, or by just decreasing the amount of time that the waves stay as a whole. We will also be decreasing the healing and damage of the ultimate, but to basically make up for that, enemies will receive the increased damage taken, and allies will receive damage reduction while being healed and still damaged by the ult, just to a lesser degree. So this is kind of a way to kind of make it to where it's no longer a super defensive ultimate, but it has that utility mixed in as well. And I would say we can allow the damage reduction to stack to a point, and same thing with the increase the damage taken to a point. So if you're ulting and then Terra Cape or Light Cape, then it's it stacks only to, let's say 15%. I think that's a fair amount, or whatever the current percent is for the capes. Just make it that and call it a day. But yeah, that is my rework for Cloak and Dagger. Dear God, Jeff, what have they done to you over these months I've been away? God, poor Jeff. I loved Jeff. Not because he was good, not because he's cute, but because he was unique. He was a support that is both very simple but unique compared to the rest of their cast, and it saddens me what they have done to him, which we will go over in the pros and cons starting now. For the pros, Jeff's ultimate is for making plays. He is a threat during it. I like that. His mobility ability lets him also climb walls and heal himself passively, which is a good bit of survivability and reposition potential. His bubbles are decent utility with the increased movement speed, and then he has a passive that lets him reduce headshot damage, because when you're shooting him, he's looking at you from the front, he's basically all face, so that makes sense. And he has a burst damage alternate fire. Now for the cons. Dear God, the cons of Jeffrey. Jeff's primary has changed to now be both a primary spam for heal and for damage. They reduced his burst damage a lot and made it to where it's only 3 charges, and it kind of blows now, because unless they're really low, you're not going to solo kill anybody with just that. He also has a AoE burst heal on his utility bubbles, which is unfortunate, and the worst of all, they made his ultimate a AoE defense ult. in a way, because when he goes into the ground, they made it to where he will have a pool of water stay there while he moves his thing, and it does healing. And then when he comes back up, I'm pretty sure it also does healing. They've ununiqued my Jeff, and I am pissed. So let's talk about reworking Jeffrey into this new state, but making him a little less brain dead, but still easy. Let's talk about what can stay with Jeff. Oblivious Cuteness, aka his critical headshot reduction passive, that can stay, and hide and seek can stay. It's on a resource meter, but I'm okay with it, because, I mean, yeah, it was kind of annoying that he could just stall on a ceiling. Like, you could just sit on a ceiling, and if you didn't hear him, you didn't hear him, so that's fair enough to put it on a resource. Now for the actual changes. Remove damage from Joyful Splash, because why are we making him so much more brain dead? Then not only does he heal in the back line, he just stays in the back line and heals, doesn't try to make plays. Now he can damage while doing that, so there's no point. Again, with his burst damage now, we are going to up the charges from 3 to 5. I'm fine with the cooldown of the charges. I think he just needs a couple more. So that way, if you're good enough and hit direct shots, you can actually get a solo kill while they're being healed. And then also, we are removing the goddamn healing effect from It's Jeff, the ultimate, because I loved it, because he only healed you if he swallowed you. So he literally just keep you in his mouth for a couple seconds, spit you out, and then spit out the enemy. It was great. It was good. It made it to where Jeff could just think about killing everybody, or he could heal you and damage people at the same time and just kidnap people, displace them. It was a good, unique ultimate for rivals, and they took it away, and I'm mad, so give it back. And then finally, we are going to rename Healing Bubble to Bubble Boost, and basically it will give you the same movement speed increase, but instead of healing you, it will give you increased effective healing, so like what Cloak has, I know what Dagger has, or it would give you temporary bonus health that would decay, similar to Ultron. That's the kind of thing I want to go for this, because I don't want everybody to have just healing, because it's like Jeff and Cloak&Dagger are very easy supports, and so I don't need them to have the healing on an ability as well, because it's on their primary fire, so I'd rather them have utility and maybe healing. But if almost everybody has healing, and more healing, there's too much healing. So yeah, with Jeff, we can either just give you bonus health and a movement speed boost, or increase the healing you receive and a movement boost, so he can then heal you normally. And then maybe, if we don't want either of those, we can do movement speed and heal over time, keep it as healing bubble. But I think this would just make Jeff a little bit more utility based and more interesting, like giving him his old ultimate back. Alright, anyway, we're going to be moving on from Jeff, because I'm going to get mad. Now, on to Luna Snow, the bane of my existence. Let's get into the pros and cons. Let's get into the pros of Luna Snow. She has a passive movement ability that lets her go faster and jump higher. She has a skill shot stun and her ice ball thing. And then share the stage is a pretty cool idea, placing a frozen idol on somebody to give them healing that you give to somebody else. But let's talk a little bit about the cons. So, cons. She has a primary spam heal for most of her healing. Her, what is it called? Whatever the thing where she does a clap stuff, that's just activate then spam heal again. Her only utility as a character, other than the skill shot stun, like utility for her team, is on her ultimate, which is 12 seconds long. And then her mobility, her passive movement, takes just a little too long to kind of wind up and get going. So we will be getting into her rework now. For Luna Snow's rework, we're going to be renaming Light and Dark Ice to just Dark Ice, and then remove the healing from her primary fire. However, which I found out with a little clapping, is it's called Ice Arts. Ice Arts will stay the same as it currently is, so it will do more damage, more healing, and pierce their enemies and allies alike to do the said healing or damage. Just that way she still has a good way of doing damage. Then we are going to change Absolute Zero, which is her little ice ball, to granting bonus health on cast rather than on hit. I just think this is a little bit better to kind of mitigate the diver problem. So like if you hit with a Black Panther trying to get you, but you miss, at the very least you still have a little bit more bonus health to maybe have a better chance of being saved, but you're still probably dead. It's just kind of a little bit of a better way to kind of help mitigate this diver issue we currently have. Next, her Smooth Skate passive is now always active. However, the jump boost portion only activates after she, goes forward for a second, for not even a full second, just for a little bit. Then she can get the jump boost part, because I think Luna Snow can just be a little faster. kind of like she's on ice skates or something. So that's my idea, to give her a little bit of movement. Luna Snow's other passive, Cryo Heart, can also stay, as is, same with Ice Hearts. And then for Fate of Both Worlds, which is her ultimate, her little, I know it's not the music, but that's the funny one. It no longer has two performances, does less healing, and also damage boosts at the same time. So her two performances combined does a little bit less healing, does a bit less healing, and still applies a damage boost to allies within it. Because overall, what I've noticed is most of the time you're not using Luna Snow ult to engage, you're using it as a defensive ult, and you're mostly keeping it on the healing portion. So I thought, let's just combine them so that way you are at least getting value out of the damage boost. Well, yes, it takes away the kind of choice aspect of her ultimate. If most people are just choosing the healing, we might as well just combine it so that way the other part of her kit isn't just forgotten. And that is the Luna Snow rework. I tried to, again, with all these reworks, I'm trying to kind of keep them with the current character design they have, but improving it / making it more utility based rather than raw healing numbers, aside from like Jeff and Cloak&Dagger, who are the easier of all the supports, so I want them to be a little bit easier to get the value of healing with. So yeah, now we're going to move on to our last one, which I believe is Invisible Woman. For Invisible Woman, we're going to her pros and cons, because she has a lot of pros, similar to how Adam Warlock and Mantis had a lot of pros, but she still has quite a couple cons, similar to how Mantis still had a con, or how Ultron has a couple cons. So yeah, let's talk about the pros and cons. Invisible Woman definitely has some utility. She has an ultimate that makes her allies invisible and slows enemies when they're inside it. She has a sort of force field that also soft CCs enemies and mitigates damage, which is soft CCs enemies when they go through it, slows them down. She has a damage and soft CC ability in her Vortex. She has a displacement ability in her little push and pull thing, and then on top of all that, she just kind of can go invisible and heal herself a bit with an ability, which is also movement, and then also her passive does that too. So overall, she has a lot of utility and stuff, but now the cons. Her primary heal spam, again, heal spam is a problem. Just spamming primary fire to heal is boring, because that's how she heals and how she damages. It's just really boring. Her vortex like pull in, pretty negligible, all things considered. Her shield not only mitigates damage, slows enemies, but it also heals, which, I mean, whatever. And then her ultimate is really just used as a defensive circle ultimate, instead of a kind of like a play ultimate, which, being fair, yeah, you're turning people invisible, so it's not really going to do a lot for playmaking unless you're just trying to hide, casting an ult or doing something of that nature. So real quick for the rework, we're going to start with what she's keeping. So she's keeping Veiled Step, which is her movement. We're going to keep Guardian Shield, which is her shield, and then we're going to keep her Agile Strike melee attack. However, what we're changing is obviously the healing on her primary fire, so that way she's not a heal spam bot. Next, we're going to be changing her passive healing to where it will heal her faster and she's invisible quicker passively. Just so then that way she spends less time outside the fight and more time actually engaged. Next, we are going to make Vortex be a more aggressive CC, because I didn't even know it actually pulled people in, because when you're using it on people, it doesn't really do anything, because they just start moving against it, because it's such a soft pull in that it doesn't accomplish anything. So make the pull more aggressive. Still, you're able to escape it, but it's just a tiny bit harder, and then make it do no damage. I think it's fine. Her projectiles piercing is okay. We want to make her little push and pull thing. I wanted to do a thing where it heals allies when they're affected by it, no matter if you do push or pull. But if you push enemies, they'll be knocked back like usual, and allies will receive a movement boost when you push them. But if you pull, enemies will receive a slow as they're pulled in, and then allies will receive nothing but the heal. So I think that's a good way to add a little bit of depth to Invisible Woman's push and pull, where she can pull in and slow enemies, or knock back enemies and boost her allies while healing them either way. This way, she has a way of consistent healing, but she is mostly with the mitigation, the CC, and the utility as a support. And then finally, for her ultimate, we're changing it to where her ultimate either does not heal at all or heals a lot less, and instead of being a barrier you can walk through easily and all projectiles really pass through. It is basically you still get slowed, but it's more like a barrier that can be destroyed. So if they use Punisher ult and you use Invisible Woman ult, he'll have to break through your barrier and then be able to hit you. So in that way, you kind of get that more, the invisibility and force shields in one. So you turn your allies invisible, you heal them maybe a little bit, if at all. You slow enemies that come in, but you also can block some projectiles. I think that would be a decent way to make sure she has added utility while also having a more unique ultimate if we're going to keep it as a circle ultimate. Because I do think making your entire team invisible is only allowed if it's within a limited area that the enemy can tell where it's at. So yes, this is my rework for Invisible Woman. Jesus Christ, I've been talking too much today. So yeah, that is our last support and last rework of the video. It's taken me about 40 minutes to record this. This video is 40 minutes. It's taken me about 7 hours total to actually record, edit, and then do this video. Because now I gotta download it, upload it, which is gonna probably take another hour or so. So yeah, I hope you guys like it, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I hope to see you guys in the next one. We're going to talk about some more hero shooters that aren't just Overwatch, maybe even some more Marvel Rivals, sneak in some Paladins later. So yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.